Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. Tonight's episode is way more relaxed than usual, and it's more of me pondering in this episode. I was thinking of the idea of happiness, and it fit into a mirror for me, in the sense that happiness is a great mirror. And I thought about how for some time I have been looking into this relationship of the body, mind, and soul. The 100% known, the semi-known, the semi-unknown, and the 100% unknown. And I thought that we look like the mind looks into an objective mirror and sees as reflection of itself, which it registers as a subject. So when a human being looks in the mirror, they are a subject looking through an object into another object, where they see how they are an object back again to how they are a subject. So a subject notices it's an object and then back into recognizing it's a subject. The mind is using matter as a mirror, and that's how we can tell we have a mind. That means our own reflection gives us certainty, our reflection in the mirror. So if the mind, and this is archaic, the soul, mind, body analogy I'm using here, but it's as if the mind looks into the body, notices a mind. Now let us say the soul is looking through a mind. That means imagine all the thoughts, all the beliefs, all the ideology, all the language, all the memories, all the visualization, everything that this brain in the moment is led to, this brain in the universal room. For the mind, the body is still. That means if we were moving, we couldn't see our reflection. Moving really fast. So if we say the body, we identify it as an object being a slower speed, or even a sort of slowest speed, in the sense of it being static, and the mind being an activity, being a movement. I have this view where I see the body, mind, soul kind of like a solid, liquid, gas. And excuse me. And so what is a body is a state, and what is a mind is those same particles moving at a faster speed. It could be that consciousness is speed. It's like one system of a certain speed suddenly having in comparison to itself another system of much more faster speed, and in between the two there is a gap of endless worlds to be created. Let me see if I can read. I found a perfect example. Imagine you yesterday walking at a certain speed. Now imagine yesterday finishes, it's now tomorrow, so so it's as if you compare the faster speed you have today to the slower speed you had yesterday, and in between seeing all the ways, all the different ways things could have been done if there was a bit more speed. And I feel it could be that chaos and order are the engine of how we even process through visuals a sense of self and world. I would say that meditation is when your mind looks in through the mirror. The mind notices its own reflection in the body. And I would say moksha, nirvana, samadhi is when your soul realizes itself in the mind that could never just be a body. You see, our embodiment has to stand in accordance to something. We don't realize, but an object being in space is not just an object in space, it's an object occupying space. That means the object is being the space. That means if there's I don't know, how can I give you say the metaphor? Okay, if somebody puts a coin and then somebody puts a notebook on that coin. Let's say I put a piece of paper on the table and then I put a book or a notebook bigger than that piece of paper on the piece of paper. It's as if the book that is over the piece of paper is the space of the paper. I don't know how to say it. It's like anyways, when the mind looks through, notices its reflection in the body, this is when no image, no language, no concept, I wouldn't say no concept, but it's as if like when something was in a solid state, the particles were moving less. When something went into a liquid state, its particles were moving way more. So we can say to notice our mind's life while having a body is to notice particles that are moving much faster than another dimension. You know, so it's as if it's, you know what it is? It's like we're being solid, liquid, gas at the same time. Our body, which is an object, is solid. Our mind which is we are a subject in our mind, is like liquid. The thought of it changes, thoughts come and go way quicker than the body grows old. I can tell you that even though I am sitting in this moment and treating myself as an individual, but I can't tell you how many ways I have opened my eyes, not to just the world, to myself. That means any new moment I've experienced, believe it or not, I have seen a dimension to myself that I have not seen before. Any experience, whether good or bad, there's always an endless progress of self. That means you can only fail in the outer realms. In the inner realms, there is no object to fail, no object to break. And really, you know, this life of ours, maybe it's something like this. I don't know, like these pictures I choose for the talks, I find it from this random wallpaper site, but there was something about this picture which was nostalgic. I don't know what it was. It was maybe the vastness of being alone in the universe, but there was something of, not being alone in the universe, being the lone universe, and being a lone universe. It's as if this astronaut or whatever is going from one reality, one inner realm, to an outer realm, and it could be that human life is a journey between dimensions and we don't realize. And honestly, guys, what I'm speaking about, I have no expectations on whether it is understood or not, because the thing about life is that the more we go towards the unknown, the less there is reason for occurrence. You see, when we were unconscious, when the brain hadn't emerged, there was no reasoning engine. There was no engine to generate reason. There was no light of reason in the dark room. So after the brain emerged, this is the secular view, the brain emerged and then the identity emerged. And then the identity identified as human. It's as if it is true. We open our eyes as ice. But during the life, this ice melts. And after it has melted, it experiences a liquid format. And then it evaporates. That means it could be that right now, beings are okay, imagine there's three phases. Imagine there's like three obstacle courses to go through. Right now, we are experiencing individualism, right? So we're experiencing the solid state. We're experiencing ourselves as ice again. But let's say whether during the lifetime, or let's say after the lifetime, or whenever, it's like at some point, ice is not going to be ice to itself. That means unless ice is preserved in a certain way, do you know it melts in room temperature unless it's in the right temperature. And if we have egos in this part of the universal sector, in a hilarious way, we can say it was the right temperature for consciousness, for egoic consciousness to arise. I wouldn't say the ego, like the traditional mystics, some of them were like, the ego's bad, get rid of it. You know, like they freaked out. But I see the ego as a tool, and also as a type of consciousness. That means on the planet Earth, we find egoic consciousness. And I feel Freud, which came up with the term ego, id, ego, and superego, I'll tell you, he came up with this term not realizing how significant it was in the next chapters of humanity, or maybe he did. There's a book that Freud wrote, which is, if I remember correct, it's called The Future of an Illusion, if I remember correctly. And so, The Future of an Illusion, in that book, he's suggesting that as long as human beings fear, they fear death, they will require to attach themselves to archetypes that are more powerful. That means there's some beings that they cannot stand here alone. It is too much. The universe is actually too much. That means we may seek, we may want knowledge as creatures, be like, yeah, give us more knowledge, universe. But if the universe gave us itself, its whole self to us, in less than an instant, we would not exist as individuals. You see, there's two types of non-existence. I would say there's a non-existence where also the dimension of experience cancels with it. So I could say that my voice, my personality, the emotions that even adjust my tone when I speak, these are all just the gifts of the embodiment. And I don't know, I mean, perhaps this must be said way more discreetly, but I would say it now. I have seen myself in this life outside of my mind. And I don't know how many people have. And it is not what we see right now. This is a sort of house of cards we're living in, a house of ideas. And I can tell you poetically, in my science fiction, I gave a clue. I gave a very interesting clue, and literally it's the end of the science fiction novel, The Messenger of Giants. But all I'll say is that it has to do with the central sun. And that's the idea, where the energy of the universe arises. And the moment the being realizes the mind is trying to locally understand energy, not realizing energy is instantaneously being location. That means it's like we have a relationship. It's like, you know what it is? It's like all of our sciences, philosophies, and everything in language is like us figuring out that we are dreaming inside a dream. That means there's, like, imagine two levels, and the way I would say the way the intellect is being sharpened in today's age. You know what it is? Let me tell you what it seems, what I feel is happening on this planet. I feel that, first of all, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So that's the first thing. After that, it seems like the cultural program is conditioning the human being to prioritize emotional salvation before even looking at what the earth is. That means, I will tell you, just because you are on this earth doesn't mean you see it. It has been the greatest challenge, harder than any parkour trick, harder than any physical feat that could jump, was the flight of the mind in the unknown void. That means that was one thing this is my honest view. I feel other than the word unknown, if the concept of the unknown didn't exist to us, if this universe was like a painting, it had edges. Imagine spaceships went to the edge of the universe and boom, they hit some like, I don't know, I mean, some sort of glass. Imagine our universe is in a glass sphere, and we're like, no way. You know, who knew the universe was made of spherical glass? So if the universe was limited, and if the word unknown wasn't here, do you know what kind of talk I would give right now? I would just focus on physical exercise. That means if there was not mystery for the mind, it would be so obvious that we are just here to be shape. We're just the shape of an event. Right? But it is only the unknown, just the fact that whatever any human being can say on this planet, and you're like, okay, thanks, but have you noticed the giant void everything is in? You know, you know, and it's like people are fighting over language. Give me a break. You know, it's like we have been fighting over, you know, all wars have been scary. Let me tell you the scariest thing. Leo Tolstoy, he's an incredible Russian philosopher who noticed this. And in a letter he wrote called Bethink Yourselves, he says that in the Russo-Japanese War, pretty much the Russian Tsar is looking at his troops and at his kingdom and saying like, God is with us, and the Japanese are also saying something similar, where the universe is with them. And so it's this strange thing where blind kings destroy the potential of the greatest kingdoms. It is the tragedy. Let me tell you, there are stories of kings, and there are stories of kings scolding kings. Those are the real stories. Because I'm telling you, any arc, any angle, any approach you use, you will eventually accumulate information that you have to classify in regards to that context. That means it's like the moment the person says, I'm a painter, suddenly everything's like painted. The moment the person says, I'm a speaker, everything, it's like even like a, I don't know, like a soda can falls to the ground and the person's like, I heard a word there. A word without meaning, but a word nonetheless. You see, we're going to realize soon we cannot die, and we would require a reformatting of civilization and the stories we tell ourselves. The body transitions what energy is, and surpassing that truth, tell me what else have we known? That means the scariest thought, I don't think many people consider this, even about reincarnation. The scariest part about it is that it's like if there isn't another dimension where the soul is separate from matter, there is some sort of intelligence separate from matter, the singular cannot know itself. The void cannot know itself. The infinite cannot know itself. Because even if you infinitely know yourself in a certain way, just infinity in one dimension doesn't mean that means it's like the same comparison of the shattered mirror or the cake cut into different pieces. It's as if you can see one piece of cake being infinite, or you can see the whole cake being infinite, or you can see endless cakes be infinite. So the infinity can comparatively always be nullified. So what I mean is that it is only in duality where shape, sound, and choice infuse to be an individual. Whoever is any conscious human being alive on earth, you won the lottery ticket as a multidimensional being. You made it to the great classroom, not the graduation, but the great classroom. That means, let me... I don't know, sometimes the soul roars and the mind can't do anything. Your beliefs and disbeliefs are like a wind blows them away. And when it comes to the body, it has always been doing its own thing. That means the body is just playing. That means you touch, like if somebody, like, I don't know, people who are listening, just touch your forearm with a finger or something. You're gonna see that sensation is meant to be engaged. The body is like a sponge. And anything that happens, it takes it in, but then it also responds. You know what it is? It's as if we are such a unique energy that I feel we bounce back what bounces onto us. And there is something about concentration. I'm telling you, that word concentration, I mean, when you look at it, it's like you start from the con and you go to the center. You know, Carl Jung relayed in his work wisdom he had heard from the ancient alchemists, and in his own version he said, they asked him what is God, and he said God is a circle in which the circumference is nothing and the center is everything. God is a circle where the circumference is nothing and the center is everything. This is what Carl Jung said, and it's so next level. Like in the interview they have of him, the interviewer is like, do you believe in God? And Carl Jung, it's like, he's like, buddy, you're talking to a philosopher here. It's like, he doesn't say that, but it's like his gesture is like, he's like, buddy, and he said like but what he actually says, the only words he says when the questioner says, do you believe God? He says, I don't believe. And then he looks at him with a strange smile and he says, I know. That means Carl Jung, a psychologist who very notable psychologists in today's society are seeing, are like basking in the glow of his great work. He did not believe God, he knew it. And that meant belief is a limitation when truth surpasses it. That means, imagine God wasn't standing, let's say, I'm just saying, imagine like, I'm saying like this, imagine true, how can I say this respectfully? Imagine the prophets of the religions returned, and they came to all those people who were following their religions, and the prophets suddenly came to speak, but they saw all the people were too busy looking at the holy book. And it was as if the book had denied the ability to, you know what it is? It's like somebody sending you a message, and the message is like, meet me here. Do you know, like a certain location, but people are just looking at the message, like they're holding the text message up to their face, not realizing it's a message. Did you get the message? And after you got the message, why do you need to keep reading? There's something there. You know, is it an endless message? You know, are we glorifying our own imagination through letters that we have no clue how they were written because it was so long ago? So it's like the mind of man is at work, and it's at work in so many ways. And if we ignore its self-reflective nature, we have ignored the clues of divinity. You know, imagine a hypothetical setting where a person is like a very, let's say, you know, honest and humble person. He suddenly gets to the audience with the God, and God's like, all right, you've been good. All right, what is it? You can ask a question, any question, you know, and the person's like, no way, I'm talking to God right now. And the person looks at God and says, God, I got a question, you know, and it's like, you know, go ask away, and God's like, probably this human being's going to ask me about suffering, you know, why were we all here? And then the human being says, God, where are you right now? Where am I talking to you right now? You know? And it is that question, where is Earth? And no on-planet ideology can be a satisfactory resolution. That means right now we don't have interstellar cities yet, but when the species in the future, I predict couple thousand years, I would say, let's way more than 2,000 years, 100%. But not more than 4,000 years, somewhere in there, somewhere in between there, I would say. Imagine right now we had interstellar cities, and imagine we had children born in these interstellar cities. For the first time, children born, where they ask the child, where were you born? And the child's like, I was born on space station XYZ. How about you? It's like, no, I was born on Earth. Sorry, man. You know, so imagine for the first time in human history, we're gonna have off-planetary philosophers. It's gonna be so cool. And those off-planetary philosophers, imagine a human being born in a space station, right? The first child born on a space station. Like, just fathom that. And that child being raised on a space station, and that child never going on Earth, right? First of all, how fascinated would that human being be to go on Earth? It would literally be like, no way, I'm visiting a new planet. Literally, it would feel that way. If children were raised in the atmosphere, then they earned their right to live on the planet. Those off-planetary children, they will not see Earth as their home. And this is how fascinating it is. So many human beings, I'm telling you, if we were machines, our code that's programming us is language, is storytelling. Everything is a story, it's insane. You know, even the word insane I'm saying right now, it fits into the... Every concept is in the linguistic simulation. And this is really it. The linguistic simulation is space. We think we're on our planet. We're on a planet, but our planet, when it asks itself, where am I? It's in space. there's so many types of civilizations we can build here, just like how many different types of inventions can be made on this earth. There's that many types of civilizations. But it's all about choice and also nature's vision. Right now, all human political systems, they are either listening to everybody's voice or listening to the majority's voice or listening to a specific group's voice or listening to an individual's voice. These are all the political systems, but we don't have a political system that treats the laws, the nature of the planet as a voice. As if in the United Nations there is a seat there, and imagine like in Lord of the Rings 2, those tree things moving, right? Imagine one of those tree things sitting at one of the UN tables, and this tree is the humanoid tree is like a ambassador of nature, as if we are in a symbiosis. It's not just what humanity wants, it's what the world wants from itself as well. That's how we ride the waves of our future without getting squashed by the feet of giants that we saw their feet like eons ago. Not eons ago, but you know. And the mind is very powerful. You know, the mind can't, for example, move an object. You know, the person's can't open a jar of pickles, and the person's like, their mind's like, I got this. You know, and the jar of pickles just explodes. You know? That means we have to be considerate of the karma of the planet than the universal sector. Let's say it's 2020 now. I feel by the year 2120, this whole vision of advanced communication I have, probably there's going to be different types of communication. You know, in regards to wondering about relationships with the interdimensional, which is a type of multidimensionality. You can even say the multidimensional general. With the void and the singular. That means there is literally, we can communicate to 4 states. That means there's generally 4 states of being. And in only one of them there is an individual doer. Maybe in 2. Maybe in 2 of them there can be a concept of an individual. That means if there was a dimension where, just to make this simple, just consider the numbers 0, 1, 2, and infinity. Okay, these 4 numbers as dimensions, and the reason I didn't say 3 after 2 is because at beyond duality you can have infinity. What I mean by that is it's like 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times endless. So it's like 0 times itself. It's like nobody knows what that is. 0 times 1, it's 0, because 1 cannot be multiplied by 0 in some sense. So 0 makes more sense than 1. It can't, because we can't say it's 1. 0 times 1, we can at least say it's 0, because we don't understand, we can't give it a numerical value. But 0 times 1 is like the biggest mystery, or I would say 1 divided by 0. You know, only mystics are like, I know what that means. You know, it's like, yeah, it's like a universal void that's intelligently being singular. It's like, and mathematicians are like, who let the yogi in the cafeteria? But what I mean is, you can communicate, you can be a state of communication, and this is dehumanized, and it's really space. That means it's as if all those people were like, yeah, I'm a soul, I'm in a body right now. You know, it's like, wait a minute, you think your soul is only in your body? What's preventing your soul from not being in the space? That means we say I got an out of body experience. We don't say I got an out of awareness experience. You know, out of space experience, right? But imagine space was the hidden body of truly the intelligence that is being the moment here, right? Because I can have whatever idea on the self, but tomorrow has its own rules. And something I probably should give a talk on, but for those who are interested listening, the best way people in the chat section can contribute is that if I say something and in their inner realms they see an angle, you can ask a question, therefore adding a branch to the topic, which I can look at, you know. So that's a useful way of that the chat section can be used, because let me tell you, speed is comparative. It's so comparative. That means somebody who's gone a really fast speed, then it's normal for them. You know, think of like somebody on a motorcycle, right? For them it's like that level of speed is okay, but somebody who's never been on a motorcycle, it's too much. But now if the person realizes the mind is not like the body where there is a physical consequence, a person can visualize, literally we can see action movies of like I don't know, like the Terminator destroying like a city or something. And so it's like we don't get offended, we don't get sad, or we don't cry over like characters dying in films, for example, you know, because we know it's not real. But we cry over what happens in reality while knowing that it's all happening within the brain, right? We know our psychology is like it's like, you know what it is, it's like in my youth, my family, there was this cottage we had. We would go there and we would put this projector on the wall and we would see the Matrix trilogy, the Matrix movies. And I remember how meta it was, where I was watching like Matrix, where the whole story is about a character in a simulation on a projector that was simulating it on a wall. Like, it was such a profoundly a metaphysical moment, where it was as if, imagine now Neo not being like, oh my god, Morpheus was right, like, you know, suddenly noticing the Matrix. Now imagine Neo noticing I am watching the movie Matrix. That would be the advanced that would be advanced mysticism. I mean advanced mysticism is saying like that's how fast you can go in the unknown. So anyways, we can communicate as space, we can communicate as an individual in space, or as the whole space. And then there is duality, which is you can experience multiplicity. Self-world, you can see your world as your greater self, as your bigger self. You can see your like biological body as your smaller self. Ultimately, there needs to be a concept of two, or the idea of self doesn't make sense. Then we go to the infinite, and this is the coolest thing. This is the coolest, one of the coolest things, I would say. This is something where sometimes I have felt like, you know, I'm saying this of course humorously, but there's been times where I felt I was born 400 years too soon. And it's a feeling, it's nothing, it's just, I'm just saying that as poetry, but it's like emotions can move, and it depends on the sensitivity to the inner realm. A person can live as a mind to such a degree where they can also become completely oblivious to their body. That means it's like to be a human being is a certain speed of mind and body. It's like a certain synchronization of them. If the mind just moves too fast, the body, like in a sense, can be said to be left behind, right? If the body moves too fast, the mind is dangling, is stumbling, right? And the thing is, the biggest thing is, I'll share this. I remember this was years ago, like 2011, and I was intoxicated, and I was in a nightclub with a cousin of mine had invited me, and we were in this nightclub in London called, what was it called, Amira? And I remember we were incredibly intoxicated, and the nightclub, for a second I was like, you know, I mean, I'll be honest, by nature, I'm not a clubber. But I'll tell you, the experience was, there was something where this thing I'm saying, if the body moves too fast, the mind dangles behind it, or in some sense stumbles behind, I don't know what to say, like it gets pulled by the body. So in 2011, I remember just being incredibly intoxicated in this club and just moving, just trying to somehow Tai Chi move my way normally out towards the outside of this club and going through the hallways, and it's just like the music and everything. And there was even the coke check and all that. And so I just remember that intoxicated moment, and I remember it was like I felt my, like, this is in a poetic way I'm saying, I felt my soul was standing in front of my mind and body, and it's like, what are you doing? And that was a moment where I realized the mind is not playing with the mind. The mind was playing with the body. You know, the mind was, it's as if you're given a tool in your hand to build an engine, but you're just playing with the tool. You're juggling a bunch of tools, not realizing that these are required to engage. Right? So for me, it was this sense of, it was actually an incredible moment when I think about it. It was a very unique state of mind, because there was this anguish of the aftermath of self-made failure, but endurance. There's something I can tell you that just endurance is the most beautiful thing. The most beautiful thing I've seen. The most powerful force. That means it doesn't matter, just like that moment where Rocky in the movie, he was just getting up. Everybody who was watching the Rocky movie, it's like, no, he's getting up again. You know, everybody's getting emotional. But it's just that. That is the most beautiful thing, because we're such energy. We're like a packet of energy. So this package of container of energy, and this container of energy, what we all empathize with endurance. You know what it is? It's as if we're all candles in a dark room, in a dark and windy room, and we are also like the hands covering these candles, right? And everybody is covering their own candle flame, right? So it doesn't go out, hence the selfishness, but at the same time, everybody can empathize that everybody is trying to keep the candle flame lit. And it's not just enough being a biological creature, it is also like what the biology is used for. This is a strange concept, because with the concept of usage, we see it for For example, like using tools, using objects, using a pencil or like something like that. And then when the idea comes to, for example, people, then that becomes super extreme. We're like, no, people using people, that's a sort of enslavement, you know, and we fight against it, right? So it's this, we have made as a species this idea that the human being can be used as a bad thing, right? But I was thinking, what if it's the humanity? What if it's the collective that is using the individual, right? Because it's really where the heart is. This poet named Hafez, he has this quote where he says, in his poetry, he has this sentence where he says, one thing I have learned, something like that, I think he says, one thing I have learned is that every heart will get what it asks, or what it asks for the most, what it wishes for the most, right? And for me, that was phenomenal, because that means every being, their nature is their GPS address. That means if you study your nature of being, you're studying how your life force is being something. Like, I don't know how to say it, this nature of being, it's not even something that can be conceptually studied. It goes to the point where Zen Master Dogen was like, if you want to study the self, you gotta forget the self. When you forget the self, you awaken to the nature of all things. That awakening to the nature of all things is a recognition that what was human life was just a peek from the doorway. And what is true reality, from the individual game of life to the collective rhythm and then beyond. That means it's as if it's like we thought it was the consciousness was the key, but it's as if all the atoms are becoming gods. But eons from now. The universe is mixed. I'm telling you, there's something where I even thought about it. Sometimes I think about, like, if there was an extraterrestrial civilization on another planet, if our neighboring planets weren't empty and they were actually extraterrestrial civilizations, what would their philosophies be? What would the philosophy of the advance be? And the philosophy of the advancement is, what is the greatest type of advancement? Universal consciousness. That means, I think if there is, let's say, higher dimensional beings, their aim is not to just draw. Their aim is to make a complete universe aware of itself. You know what that means? That means just like there's pain in the body, suddenly the person notices that pain, you know, or they sit on the remote controller on a couch and they don't realize they've sat on a remote controller and they're like, what's off? You know, could the stars be off? Like, it's as if the disturbance is local. I would like to actually read from this book that is the Upanishads, and let me see which Upanishad it is. Excuse me. This is, oh my God. anyways, I'll read it. It's a book on the Upanishads. I don't know if it's the accurate translation of the Upanishads, but its ideas are unique. So I'm just going to read it. I've opened a random page. And it says, and similar, okay, let me see. People conversant, or let me read it from here. It says, adepts in human dealings say that the people, that is to say people's pleasures, are the real things. Persons conversant with the stages of life hold those to be the reality. The grammarians hold the view that words belonging to the masculine, feminine, and neuter genders are the reality, while others know reality to be constituted by the higher and lower Brahmans. People conversant with creation call creation to be the reality. The knowers of dissolution call it dissolution. The knowers of subsistence call it subsistence. All these ideas are forever imagined on the self, with a capital S. Prana means prajna, the self in the state of latency. Everything else ending with subsistence is only his product. And similarly, all other popular ideas conceived by every being, like a snake, etc., on a rope, are mere imaginations on the self that is devoid of all of them, and these are caused by ignorance consisting in the non-determination of the nature of the self, with a capital S. This is the purport of these verses as a whole. No attempt is made to explain each of the words in the verses, starting with the word prajna, since this is of little practical value and since the meanings of the terms are clear. It says, anyone to whom a teacher may show a particular object as the reality sees that alone, and that thing too protects him by becoming identified with him. That absorption leads to a self-identity with the object of attention. To be brief, Yasya, anyone to whom a teacher or any other trustworthy person, Darsa, I can't pronounce this, may show any bhavam, positive object, enumerated or not, from among such things as prana and the rest, by saying this is verily the reality. He, that instructed man, sees that object by identifying it with himself as either, in quotations, I am this, or in quotations, this is mine. Ka and saw that object was shown. Sorry guys, like this. Okay, I'm just gonna get through this. Ka and saw that object that was shown. Avati protects Tom, him, that seer, by becoming one with him. That is to say that object occupies his attention to the exclusion of all others and keeps him confined within itself. Tad graha means the state of being taken up with that, absorption in it under the idea. This is the reality. The absorption approaches him, the one who has accepted the thing. That is to say, it culminates in identification with him. Pretty much this whole passage is saying where your attention is, you're identified with. It says, through these things that are really non-different from the self, this one, with a capital O, is presented as though really different. He who truly knows this grasps the meaning of the Vedas without any hesitation. It is being stated that this unreality of duality that has been established logically is also derived from valid evidence of Vedanta. Just as dream and magic are seen to be unreal, or as is a city in the sky, oh my god, or as is a city in the sky, so also is the whole universe known to be unreal from the Upanishads by the wise. Yup. The wise man's like, it's not here. That's it, you know? That means it's like the wisest thing to say is like, keep looking or keep going. It's like whatever verb you want to say, just put the word keep. It's like, keep dreaming, keep running, you know what I mean? Okay, so I'm going to continue. Svapana Maya, I can't pronounce this. Dream and magic, though unreal, being constituted by unreal things, are considered by the non-discriminating people to be constituted by real things. Again, just as Gandharvana Garam, an illusory city in the sky, appearing to be full of shops, replete with vendible articles, houses, palaces, and villages. No way, there's a name for it in yoga. No. Wow. Appearing to be full of shops, replete with vendible articles, houses, palaces, and villages, bustling with men and women, is seen to vanish suddenly before one's very eyes. Or just as the dream and magic are seen to be unreal, similarly this whole universe, this entire duality is viewed as unreal, where that is being stated. Vedantesu in the Upanishads, as for instance, in quotations, there is no difference whatsoever in it. I think a robot wrote this, guys. This isn't the Upanishads I'm reading. This is some person who I think has. It's called the 8 Upanishads. I think he's giving his commentary on the different Upanishads here. Whoever the author of this book is. Here are the names here. Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya is giving the commentary on this. And okay, anyways, I'll continue. It says, dream and magic are seen to be unreal. Similarly, this whole universe, this entire duality is viewed as unreal, where that is being stated. Vedantesu in the Upanishads, as for instance, there is no difference whatsoever in it. The Lord, on account of Maya, is perceived as manifold. This was but the self in the beginning, the only entity. It says, this was but the self in the beginning, the only entity. In the beginning this was indeed Brahman, one only. It is from a second entity that fear comes, but there is not that second thing. But when to the knower of Brahman, everything has become the self, and so on. This is known Vikasa Nay, by those who are better acquainted with things, by the learned. This view is supported by the following text of Vyasa. This universe is viewed by the wise as unreal, like a crack on the ground that a rope appears to be in darkness, or as always unstable, like bubbles created by rain, devoid of bliss and ceasing to exist after dissolution. There is no dissolution, no origination, none in bondage, none striving or aspiring for salvation, and none liberated. This is the highest truth. That means the highest truth is that truth is not truth. This verse is meant to sum up the purport of this chapter. If from the standpoint of the highest reality all duality is unreal, and the self alone exists as the only reality, then it amounts to this, that all our dealings, conventional or scriptural, are surely matters of ignorance, and there is na-nirodha, no dissolution. Nirodha being the same as nirodhana, stoppage, origination, bada, Jesus Christ. It's like I need it's these words. Okay, I don't think I should attempt reading the words. One under bondage, a transmigrating individual soul, one who strives for liberation, one who hankers after liberation, one who is free from bondage. In the absence of origination and dissolution, bondage do not exist. It says bondage, etc. do not exist. This iti esa parmarthata. This is the highest truth. How can there be absence of origination and dissolution? The answer is because of the absence of duality. The non-existence of duality is established by various Vedic texts, such as, because when there is duality, as it were, he goes from death to death, who sees difference, as it were, in it. All this is but the self. All this is but Brahman, one only, without a second. This Brahmana and this all are this self. Origination or dissolution can belong only to a thing that has existence, and not to one that is non-existent, like the horn of a hare. Nor can the non-dual have either birth or death, for it is a contradiction in terms to say that a thing is non-dual and yet has birth and death. And as for the empirical experience of prana, it has been already stated that it is all a superimposition on the self, with a capital S, like a snake on a rope. Indeed, such a mental illusion as the fancying of a rope for a snake does not either originate from or merge in the rope, nor does the rope-snake originate in the mind and merge there, nor does it do so from both the rope and the mind. Similar is the case with duality, which is equally a mental illusion, for duality is not perceived in a state of concentration or deep sleep. Therefore it is established that duality is a mere fragment of the brain, and therefore it has been well said that since duality does not exist, the highest truth consists in the non-existence of dissolution and the rest, the non-existence of the concept of dissolution. I think these are moments where highlighters are made for, even though I don't have one. To continue, it says, objection. If such be the case, then the scriptures have for their objective only the proving of the non-existence of duality, not the proving of the existence of non-duality. The two objectives being contradictory. That means the Vedas are disproving non-duality, not duality. That's their ultimate teaching. And so Zen, which you can say Buddhism came after, Vedanta is much older. So it's just remarkable how many people feel enlightenment is non-duality, but here it says If such be the case, then the scriptures have for their objective only the proving of the non-existence of duality, not the proving of the existence of non-duality, the two objectives being contradictory. And as a result, one will be landed into nihilism, inasmuch as non-duality has no evidence in its support and duality is non-existence. It's not that, you know why it says that you land in nihilism? Because non-duality, there is no self. If there is no self, there is no individual significance for meaning to start from. I'm telling you, there was from, believe it or not, when I started to give these talks from 2015 to 17 to 16, okay, let's say from 14 to 6, starting from the end of 14 to 16, I experienced this. Where, how would I tell you, it's like your non-dualism makes you feel that the flow that is happening is new, so you feel that's enlightening, but you don't realize that non-duality, as long as there is a self, is a mirage. So to this objection, there is an answer. The answer is not so, for why should you revive a point already dismissed with the statement that illusions like that of a snake on a rope cannot occur without a substratum? To this the objection is raised thus, another objection to that answer. The rope that is supposed to be the substratum of the illusion of the snake is itself non-existence, and hence the analogy is irrelevant. You know what it is? This is like similar to Jean-Paul Sartre, where he's an existential atheist, a very profound French philosopher, and he's literally written a book on being and emptiness. And he does something unique in philosophy, which brought him a lot of attention. And what he did was he said this thing that we see like something, and we're trying to constantly see something deeper behind it. It's like, no, it's not like the surface of the ocean, which is like normal, and then suddenly we look at the depths of the ocean and we're like, that's deep. Do you see? So Jean-Paul Sartre was saying the surface, like when we say don't judge a book by its cover, but Jean-Paul Sartre was saying like the book and the cover are the same thing, you know? So that's the thing, because in Vedanta they're saying this life is like a dream, so the mind's overlay, so it's like subjective, the subjective, the unknown subjective overlay over the known object is like how we're seeing the rope as a snake. And so Vedanta is saying, like, as long as you see the rope as a snake, you suffer, you freak out. But when you stop, when you actually look at the nature of what something is before it is anything, you will see the rope is nothing to be feared. And so far in what I've read, it made a very important point that fear comes from from a sense of two-ness. That means when one is, I don't want to personalize it in regards to a human being in a cultural program, but it's as if, like, if it's singular, there's nothing to be afraid. So pretty much it's only in duality where we can fear. And love, we call it love in the outer realms, but I feel deep down what it is alignment with universal presence. That means it's as if nature's rhythms have not been forgotten just because, you know, marketing campaigns were successful, you know? Because we're living in a consumerist era. You know what the era is? I would say this is the era where people are buying the most amount of things, but people are at the lowest inner realm quality. In the outer realms, people may feel super high quality, but in the inner realm, I feel it's a low quality phase, right? That means it's as if, like, who was it? It's Charles Bukowski made a point of this, but it's like, if you do what the crowd does, you will get the result of the crowd. So what can you do in a world where the crowd is dictating what is normal? So the only way is you honor the potential of the crowd, then you provide some distance from the crowd and yourself. That way you get to see the crowd and you get to see its potential outside of the box. You know, I can't tell you, there's like, sometimes I feel the word, this concept of learning knowledge, it's like, it's honestly attention like a drone moving through objective and subjective landscape. It's like, what knowledge? As long as there's wonder and an effort to explore, everything can continue to become deeper. And so there's so many different states of mind that it's as if people have to just drop their swords and shield and realize there's endless types of, you know, there's endless types of there's just so many different ways minds are simulating themselves on this planet, and so many different value systems that really, it's like we're starting from anarchy. All those people who want to be an anarchist, just meditate a little bit, you'll realize everything is an anarchy. You will see chaos is normal. It is order that is rare, and all those people want to break rules because they think that's the cool thing to do. Let me tell you, it took us 4.5 billion years just to be able to come up with those rules, you know? And people are just breaking rules. I would say, instead of breaking rules, go and see if you can update the rule. That's it. If our world doesn't update, we all die inside. Anyways, guys, I'm going to continue. I feel like I'm going to read a bit more of this ancient thought. So it's the constant objection-answer to this view of non-duality's position. So the text continues. So the previous objection was the rope that is supposed to be the substratum of the illusion of the snake is itself non-existence, and hence the analogy is irrelevant. The answer comes, the rebuttal: not so, for even when the illusion disappears, the non-illusory substratum can continue to exist by the very fact of its being non-illusory. Objection: the non-dual substratum too is unreal, like the snake fancied on a rope. Guys, you know how hilarious it is? It's literally this. It's literally like human creatures have been born on a rock, and they're like, it's real. And then some creatures are like, no, it's unreal. And everything has been just between this one point. Is it real or is it unreal? Do you know? If we treat it as a simulation, then we become careless. If this is reality, and I'll say it this way, if this is reality, we treat it like a simulation, that's a sort of ignorance. If this is a simulation and we treat it like a reality, that's also ignorance. And I'm pretty sure, like, this is what I'm reading is just real here. It says, the non-dual substratum too is unreal, like the snake fancied on a rope. It cannot be so, the answer, the rebuttal comes, it cannot be so, for just as the rope constituting a factor in the illusion of the snake exists as an unimagined entity even before the knowledge of the non-existence of the snake, so also the non-dual self eternally exists as a non-imagined entity. That means the rebuttal is getting to a point where the guy is saying like truth is a potential. Besides the being who is the agent of the imagination, agents of imagination, wow, that's the agent of the imagination cannot be non-existent, since his existence has to be admitted and antecedent to the rise of the illusion. The objection comes, but if the scriptures do not deal with the self as such, how can they lead to a cessation of the awareness of duality? The answer comes, that is no defect, for duality is superimposed on the self through ignorance, just as a snake is on a rope. The objection comes, how? The answer, all such conceptions as, in quotations, I am happy, miserable, ignorant, born, dead, worn out, embodied, I see, I am manifest and unmanifest, agent and enjoyer of fruits, related and unrelated, emancipated and old, these are mine, in quotations, are superimposed on the self. The self, with a capital S, permeates all these ideas, for it, with a capital I, is invariably present in all of them. Just as a rope is present in all its different illusory appearances as a snake, a line of water, etc., such being the case, the knowledge of the nature of the substantive, in brackets here, self, has not to be generated by scriptures, since it is self-established. That means all these people who are reading holy, like let's say every attention that has tried to find truth like a treasure, it's self-established. That means the illusion, because it's defining itself as an illusion, can never see the truth, so only the truth can awaken the illusion. So it's as if one moves simply by their nature until I would say poetically, the greater eyes of the universe, the universal, the future, our universal future commands us otherwise. I don't know how to say it. I'm pretty much like, this is kind of like where we need 8 billion human beings to be shamanic, in the sense that they realize some moments it has nothing to do with what they think, what others think. It is life sensitivity on an experiential level of what directly is the value of the moment. You know, when we care for life, then the idea of soul makes sense. But when we don't care for life, it is so easy to just be a lifeless object. The scriptures are meant for proving something that is not already known. For should they restate something that is already known, they will lose their validity, since the self is not established in its own nature owing to the obstacle of such attributes as happiness that are superimposed by ignorance, and since remaining established in its own reality is the highest goal, therefore the scriptures aim at removing from the self the ideas of its being happy and the rest, by generating with regard to it the ideas of its not being happy. Through such texts as, in quotations, not this, or neti, or not gross, etc. Unlike the real nature of the self, the attributes of being unhappy, etc. too are not invariably present in consciousness simultaneously with such attributes as being happy, etc. For if they were intrinsically, almost to the end guys, intrinsically present, there can be no such distinguishing attribute as being happy superimposed on it, just as there can be no coldness and fire possessed on this, of the specific characteristic of heat. Therefore it is in the attributeless self that the distinct characteristics of being happy, etc. are imagined. And as for the scriptural text speaking of the absence of happiness, etc. in the self, it is proved that they are merely meant to remove the specific ideas of happiness from it. That means it's like there's something, truth is there, truth is identifying with illusion, and it's like the scriptures are trying to be like, yo, truth, you're not an illusion. Like, that's pretty much like all this is. And in support of this is the aphorism of those who are versed in the meaning of scriptures. The validity of the scriptures is derived from their negation of positive qualities from the self. The reason for the preceding verse is being adduced. This self is imagined to be the unreal things and also to be non-dual, and these perceived things are also imagined on the non-dual self. Therefore, non-duality is auspicious. In such illusions as, in quotations, this is a snake, this is a stick, this is a streak of water, etc., the very thing called rope is imagined to be such unreal things as a snake, a streak of water, etc., and also as the one real thing, the rope. Similarly, the self is imagined to be such multifarious unreal things as prana, etc., which do not exist. But this is not done from the standpoint of reality, for nothing can be pointed out by anybody unless the mind is active, nor can the self have any movement. And things perceivable to the unsteady mind alone cannot be imagined to subsist in reality. Therefore, through the self, though the self is ever of the same nature, it alone is imagined to be such unreal things as prana, etc., and again as existing in its own nature of non-duality and absolute reality. Yeah, because where else can language go? That means literally it's as if like it's like somebody wanted to write the ultimate truth on paper, and it's like it's not that they couldn't write the ultimate truth, it's that they reached the edge of language. So this constant paradoxical thing we find, this is literally like the atmosphere that keeps non-fiction as non-fiction. Really, the edges of the realm. You know, we're either something, we're nothing. I'll say it this way: we're either nothing or we're everything, or we're infinite relationships in between. There's a little bit more, guys. I'm going to read it. It is supposed to be the substratum of everything, just as a rope is of the snake, etc. And those perceived entities too, viz. Prana and the rest, are imagined by virtue of the existence of the self that is verily non-dual, for no illusion can be perceived that is without a substratum. Thus, since non-duality is the substratum of an illusion, and since this non-duality is ever unchanging in its own nature, at Veda, non-duality is auspicious even in the state of illusion. But the illusions alone are evil, for they generate fear, like that from the snake seen on a rope, for instance. Non-duality is free from fear. Hence, that alone is auspicious. That's exactly it, right? So, non-duality is free from fear. We want to build an advanced civilization instead of through a mentality of fear, through love. So it's only like people have to come to a non-dual, they have to like get a glimpse beyond the language threshold, then become a new explorer of a life that every day is new. You know, every day I wake up, I'm like, okay, it's like, what ideas will find me today, or like what will I see in my inner realm? Sometimes, like I'm telling you, when you look at the world for a while, after some point, it's like the person's like, okay, how many days can I just keep waking up and seeing this? After the point you begin there's a sort of preferencelessness, and you're just like, all right, let me see what the day brings. Or I shouldn't say even just what the day brings. It's like where the eyes go, where the attention goes. That means there is no preference on, I would say, a humanized cultural fitting into a sort of collective puzzle that no one can ever imagine accurately, because we're just one part of it. And that is it. Non-duality is free from fear, hence that alone is auspicious. So if we can find a way of in our inner realms being non-dual. That means not being attached or obsessively detached, which is another type of attachment. It's like the shadow of attachment. So it's like the mind needs to be free, so that would imply non-dual and endless potential possibility. But when it comes to the body, it has to move, it has to exist. And I don't know, for example, in Tibetan Buddhism, there were yogis that they would there was this concept of a sort of, in a mystical context, a sort of self-immolation. And this self-immolation didn't mean like a fire. It meant that the person's energies, they moved into a different radio frequency. Imagine like a different channel of the radio in the car or something. Do you know what I mean? So it reached a point where it did not require, the energy became too much for the body to hold. So the body, in some sense, got overpowered by the mind that was in the body. That means the mind it's as if the mind became this, imagine like this powerful sphere of light, and the body just got dissolved in it. It's kind of like that. I'm animating it, of course. I'm animating something beyond the language threshold, so here it is poetry. But I'm saying, if we can find a way where we selflessly get to experience the most advanced self, it's like win-win. It's like the yogis one, it's like those who chase desire. We can create a system, honestly, if all, a couple centuries go by, and just humanity just focuses on building a legit backup system and advanced and self-sustaining advanced civilization, the backup system for that, then we can settle it after we do that. Then it's easy. Then it's just time and hoping nothing happens, from celestial interference with our planet. Right now, it's kind of cool. I actually think that it's quiet. Because if all the planets in our solar system had aliens on it, we'd be like, oh my god, we're not alone. But then we'd be like, what are they thinking though? Are they going to invade us? All we have is we can throw metal at them and break atoms. It's like, how else? So it's like we should kind of be happy there isn't other extraterrestrial civilizations, Can you imagine if there were all the planets in our solar system were filled with different civilizations, and then they began becoming overpopulated, and then one of these planets decided, I'm going to conquer all the other planets, and I'm going to take their space because it's overpopulated and those planets are habitable or something. Even though so many of our, in our current solar system, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's not like we can't be an object on some planets. So I don't know. The eyes tell a story, and then the void has its own angle. Okay, now back to the talk, and then I'll see where it goes. So, of course, it's really poetic, this episode, because happiness is a great mirror. That means it's like a person gets happy if they get something. Okay, that's a type of happiness. But then we say there's a happiness where you saw the true event. It's as if we've entered this universe and it's Truth's birthday party, and it's as if we've gone there, but we don't know. It's like You know, we don't know where truth is, but we know we're at its birthday party. Yeah. We're celebrating the birth of truth, guys, you know. I'm trying to think like how I would define happiness. I would say it's when you feel your life force was worth it. And that's why, like, the honor of a collective, I don't know, human hive attitude is like necessary. It's like we're not just, you know, this idea of kingdoms is long gone. We don't live in that kind of realm, but we could have in a cultural program like kingdom. The soul's reflection in the mind. It's timeless moments where the unknown gives you more of a feeling that you are seeing the truth than the known. You know what that means? That means, look at this astronaut in the picture. This astronaut is going from one exit of one, I don't know, giant wall in space into another giant wall in space. So if this astronaut looks to his left, he sees the unknown. But because he knows he wants to go forth, the unknown becomes a reflection. Do you see? The unknown it gives you, the unknown localizes our knowledge. Without the unknown, we can't localize knowledge. That means that is what every teacher has been hiding. Yeah. The void is behind our eyes, not just in front of them. And knowledge is being taught, you know? That means it's as if, like, just the concept of measurement in a changing world is bizarre. You know, some things, they asked this, there was this man named Sadhguru, this yogi, very cool guy. Somebody asked him what happens after death, and he's like dressed like a yogi, and he goes to universities and sits down and talks to people. And so one smart ass student is like, Sadhguru, what happens after death? Sadhguru looks at him and is like, some things are best left for experience. You know, and what he means is that it's like until the energy is built up for it, it's like the person shouldn't attempt lifting. You know, not all questions should be lifted by everyone. You know, not everything can be lifted by everyone. Just like how people have different strength, right? People, you can say, have a different tolerance for the framework of the dimensions of their I feel the audience is not going to believe it, but I'm going to change the song. It's as if the person looks at their body and it's like a comrade assisting them in the battlefield, you know? It's like in the battlefield of the space-time continuum. One looks at their mind, and their mind seems to be a commanding officer. Or let me say it this way, the mind is like the general. That means it's kind of like I feel I need to say this, it's shy people feel the mind is just designed to just receive. But people who are bold, they understand the mind is a tool for expression also. And it's a tool like an instrument that can be mastered as well. Mastered not in the sense that you attain, in the sense that your awareness becomes more, so you see more out of the moment, therefore the skill is evolved that way. Not in the sense that you attain. And the soul is like the king, or the queen, or, I don't know, the crown on, I don't know, space. Imagine like there's a crown floating in outer space, and people are like, whose crown is that? And then the whole universe shouts, it's my crown. And who knew the universe was wearing the crown? I don't know, like this may sound hilarious to some people, but I've even experienced moments where I felt the unknown, like my soul has scolded how my mind has, like the king has gotten angry at how the general communicated to the army of cells that are being the human being, you know. There's been even moments, like surreal moments like that, you know. Moments before I sleep, usually before I sleep, I kind of like, in a poetic way, salute every atom of my existence, every atom in existence, pretty much. You know, it's as if like, what can you do when you're about to sleep? It's like, you know, sometimes, you know, some people, I don't know, I mean, like, who knows what's going to happen, but anytime a person's eyes is closing, it's as if it's like something is leaving. So that tension is just shifting gears into something else. But imagine now, the mind was mismanaging, let's say the general couldn't communicate properly to the army simply because the general didn't know what the king wanted. So it's as if like a mind being in this world, being like, I got this advanced mind, I got this body, you know, this mind can move this body, but why is the mind here? You know, so that's where there requires to be like the instructions and commands from the soul. And don't fear this word. The word is just like saying unknown x variable in a mathematical equation, but now the equation is reality. You know, the world is it's not turning around itself, it is also turning in itself. That means in my inner realms, the earth, you know how many times the earth is spun the other way? You know, in the inner realms, you can visualize, I can visualize like the whole universe being just filled with like planets, as if it's like, I don't know, a Smarties packet or something, you know what I mean? Like, or close to it, so. It's just remarkable. I feel this strategy of self in the world, it's going to go to a certain point. Its language is going to dismantle all the direct experience through nature. It's going to recalibrate us in just prioritizing, you know, technology that's more decent. I mean, like, you think of it this way. Let's say human beings, let's say we say, let's all be collective and build something great. And people are like, no, that sounds too good to be real. You know, I don't like it. It sounds fluffy or something, you know? Like, so, right? But if you think about it, okay, let's say none of us do it. Let's say everybody remains selfish. Then eventually, some wave of human beings are going to do it. So if we start now, they will have a head start. That's it. So it's like the best thing you can do on this planet is be an explorer, so at least the future can figure out what happened. You know? And of course, Aristotle says it's a sign of an educated mind to entertain an idea without accepting it. So if we can entertain thought without accepting it, we were never thought. Aristotle in that quote is saying how we are not a thought, we are the watcher. Energy is somehow watching itself exist. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. And I think it's just part of the birthright, or I don't know if I could say a birthright for an eternal idea, but like, we're here once, and when that really settles in, sinks in, the person will find very profound force. They will find passion in something. Who knew mortality is the greatest motivation? Is the greatest motivational speaker, you know. Time. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. Namaste. I'll be for, what time is it? 6:21. Yeah, namaste.